Wahlberg realizes that Nash is someone who can protect back the weak and regulate the strong, so he recalls the creature and lights up the place, revealing that Mash was just being tested as he welcomes him to the East and Magic Academy. Later on, we see them in class where they learn the lock opening spell, which is considered to be basic. The teacher demonstrates it, but Mash just uses his hands to destroy the lock, making the teacher angry because he didn't even use magic. Mash explains that he is not good with magic while the boy next to him, Finn, starts seeing him as a troublemaker. After class, Finny looks for his dorm, hoping Mash is not going to be his roommate. He finds his room, but the door is missing, and he sees Mash holding onto it, making him realize that they are going to be sharing the room. They get to know each other, and Finn starts to think that Mash is just a normal guy, but he suddenly introduces Finn to his muscles, making him think he is a weirdo. Mash asks Finn if he can borrow his broom for the next class, since he brought a giant plant root instead, thinking it was a broom. Finn allows it, and the next day, the teacher trains them to fly with the broom. Mash tries to do it, but the broom won't respond to him, so he gets ridiculed by a student saying that he's slowing the class down. But Mash stops his foot and causes the broom to fly into his hand. The student calls him a cheater, saying he didn't use magic, as the teacher announces a time trial to see how fast the students can fly with their brooms. The guy challenges Mash to a race where the loser must obey the winner until they graduate. Mash accepts the challenge, so they prepare to race. The instructor doubts Mash can even ride his broom, but she begins the race anyway, and Mash ends up winning instantly, setting a new world record with his speed. Everyone is confused because they didn't even see Mash move, but Finn saw Mash throw the broom forward and jump towards it, allowing him to ride it while it was in midair. The student accuses Mash of cheating, and he takes pity on him, so he drops the bet. The guy continues to run his mouth, but it gets stitched shut as a student named Cavil makes his entrance. He apologizes on his friend's behalf, but everyone knows that Cavil is a troublemaker, so they are worried about Mash, thinking he has just become a target. Cavil introduces himself to Mash, but Mash misunderstands his name, thinking it's Cabbage, making everyone fall silent. Cavil prepares to cast a spell, but the teacher interrupts, reminding them that they are in the middle of class. So Cavil tells him to meet him after class, and he leaves the scene. As they make their way back to their room, Finn reveals that Cavil is the son of a high-ranking member at the Bureau of Magic. He adds that Mash will get expelled if he messes with Cavil since his family has close ties with the vice principal. Finn has actually seen students suffer because of Cavil. Mash starts baking cream puffs on his own, enjoying the experience, while Cavil is waiting for him at the field and becomes upset that Mash isn't showing up. The next day, Mash takes out his book for his next class, but it's in terrible condition. Cavil approaches him, asking him why he didn't show up, and Mash apologizes, saying he was too busy making cream puffs, which seems to annoy Cavil. Cavil asks him if he wants to become the divine visionary, claiming that he can help Mash achieve his goal by using his connection with the vice principal if Mash will follow his orders. Mash immediately agrees to this, and he turns into Cavil's lapdog, following every order as part of the deal. Mash prepares for his next class, but he realizes that his book about the subject is also in bad shape. Finn reluctantly agrees to share his book, and Mash thinks he is lucky to have a friend like Finn. Mash gives Cavil some water, but he pours it on the floor, ordering Mash to clean it up. As Mash cleans the floor, it's revealed that Cavil was ordering Finn to tamper with Mash's books, but he is getting bored, so he wants Finn to burn Mash's clothes. Finn refuses to obey, so Cavil uses his magic to bring Finn to his knees and beat him up. After some time, Mash arrives at the scene, asking Cavil what he's doing. Cavil claims he just wants to get an apology from Finn, who starts crying as he confesses that he ruined Mash's books under Cavil's orders, apologizing for his actions. Cavil asks Mash if he wants to have dinner with the vice principal, but Mash goes to him and bashes his head against the floor, instantly knocking him out. Finn tells Mash that he is going to get expelled, making him realize that he is in trouble. Vice Principal Farman suddenly arrives, revealing that Cavill's father entrusted him to look after his son. Farman witnessed the entire incident, but he calls it a violent attack against Cavill, so he is going to hold a school conference to discuss what they just did. He mentions that their status is different from Cavill, so he deserves special treatment, even calling them idiots as he continues to run his mouth. Mash rushes over to him, landing a knee strike on his face while the others watch in horror. Mash explains that since Farman isn't open to reason, it would make sense to beat him up since he is already in trouble anyway. Farman threatens to expel him as he tries to cast his spell, but Mash slaps dirt on his face. He digs a hole in the ground, slamming Farman into the hole, and he proceeds to cover it up. Farman warns Mash that he won't get away with this, but Mash threatens to bury him alive. After that, he is summoned by the headmaster, who tells him that he just received a notice from the Bureau of Magic to have him expelled. We learned that the Bureau of Magic is the highest legal authority in the land, and the divine visionaries produced by the Academy are at its core. He reminds Mash about Cavill's status, but he burns the notice because he doesn't want good people to be put at a disadvantage. Wahlberg rants about the current status of the world since it only serves the elites. He thinks that it needs more people like Mash who are willing to sacrifice themselves to do the right thing, and he even wants Mash to become a divine visionary. Sunday Mash mentions how he plans to become one, so the headmaster explains the way to become one, but Mash can't handle all the information. So Wahlberg decides to keep it simple, telling him that he just needs to earn high marks and acquire as many coins as possible. He assures Mash that he will take care of the bureau and the vice principal, and Mash takes his leave. The next day, the captain of the Dweller team, Tom, invites him to represent their dorm in a game, which is basically like Quidditch from Harry Potter. Mash says that he can't ride a broom, but Tom doesn't believe him, dragging him into the team during the match. The enemy grabs possession of the ball, and Mash is still on the ground as he reiterates that he can't ride a broom. The crowd thinks that he isn't even trying, so they jeer at him, throwing things at him. His team is getting wrecked, and Tom goes to him explaining the rules of the game. We learn that they need to pass the ball through the enemy's ring to earn points, and the use of magic is forbidden since the game is all about brim technique. Tom is about to get back to the game when the enemy captain intentionally bumps into him, causing him to fall. Mash checks up on him, and Tom seems to have broken some bones, asking the enemy captain about his sense of sportsmanship. But the enemy captain doesn't care, revealing that Lenny is all that matters to him before getting back into the game. Tom knows that their team is about to lose, but he tells Mash that winning isn't everything, and that giving one's best is even more important. They are points behind making the enemy. Captain think that they are about to win, but they seem to have enraged Mash, who grabs onto his broom and jumps into the air. He maintains his altitude by rapidly kicking around, leading the spectators confused. He gains possession of the ball while the enemy team charges toward him, but he uses his inhuman strength to throw the ball, blowing them away and scoring a point. The crowd is surprised as the ball circles around, returning to Mash like a boomerang. He keeps repeating the same move to score more points, while everyone watches on in disbelief. Their score eventually reaches, making them the winners, and the Academy recognizes their score as a record, and they are given silver coins as a reward. Finn thinks his performance was incredible, but Mash doesn't want to play that game again, while Tom gives him a hug, as he thanks him for helping the team win. Later, we see a student named Lance reading a newspaper, where he learns about Mash's achievement. He recognizes Mash from the entrance exam, destroying his picture as he makes Mash's next target during his class. Tom pesters him into practicing for their game while Lemon wants to study with him, but Mash isn't interested in spending time with them at that moment. Lance appears, and Lemon recognizes him as the student who topped the entrance exam. Lance wants to do something fun, pulling out a special magical tool and opening it, causing Mash's friends to disappear as they are trapped inside of the bottle. Lance tells Mash to go to the forest if he wants them back, and then disappears. They needed the forest, where Lance reveals he is also collecting coins, shelling 2 silver coins. We learned that most people only have 1 magic line on their face, but there are rare cases when a person has more magic lines, indicating that they have greater magical power. Lance challenges Mash to a duel, where they each bet 1 silver coin, and Mash accepts the duel. So Lance pulls out his wand, using a spell to prepare the area for their duel, after he has cleared the area. Mash tries to attack him with his fists, but Lance uses a gravity spell to slam him to the ground. Mash struggles as he tries to stand, while Lance tells him that no human can withstand his spell. But Mash punches through the ground, pulling out giant roots and splitting the earth beneath his opponent, driving him back. Lance lands on his knees, stunned by Mash's ridiculous power, as Mash dashes towards him. Lance tries to stop Mash with the same gravity spell, but Mash uses his speed to escape and tries to punch him, but Lance narrowly dodges his attacks. His necklace falls to the ground, and Mash picks it up out of curiosity. He opens it up, revealing the picture of Lance's sister, and Lance confesses that he has a sister complex, telling Mash to give it back. Lance asks him, "What is the most important thing in the world?" Mash tries to answer cream puffs, but Lance tells him he is wrong, and the only correct answer is his little sister, making Mash think that he's a creep. Lance threatens to drop his friends down the cliff, claiming that he will use them to help him win the match. In a flashback, we learn that Lance's sister is suffering from an incurable disease that will strip her of her magical powers. And without them, she will have to be taken out because magicless people have no right to live in their world. So Lance wants to become a divine visionary to save his sister from the system. Back in the present, Lance drops the bottle, using a magic spell to accelerate its descent. But Mash changes into his workout gear. He gets into starting position and dashes forward, moving so fast that he disappears before his enemy's eyes. Lance tries to look for him, and Mash suddenly appears behind him. He can't believe that. Mash managed to recover the bottle so quickly, thinking he must be using magic. But Mash is no longer interested in fighting, because he knows that Lance is not a bad guy. Pointing out that the ball he dropped was empty, he rushes towards Lance, managing to grab the real bottle, and he frees his friends. Lance concedes the duel, handing over his silver coin before leaving. As he walks away, Mash realizes that Lance is actually a pretty good guy, and his friends surround him, thanking him for saving them. We learned that there are 3 dorms at the academy that divide the students' presence: Courage, the Orca dorm for wisdom, and the Long dorm for ambition, with the 3 dorms having a rivalry between them. At the academy, Mash puts together his silver coins, and we learn gold coin. He relaxes with Finn, who suddenly starts to panic because they haven't done their potions assignment. Lance shows up, calling them slackers for forgetting the assignment. Instead, Lance thinks he is messing around, so he watches Mash and guides him step by step. But it still turns out as a cream puff, which leaves Lance completely confused. And despite all his attempts, it always comes out as a cream puff. But they are actually pretty good. We see Headmaster Wahlberg off-campus class, wondering if Mash will be okay. We see a student named Barrett. As he bumps into some other students, they tell him off, but he ends up beating them all up, and he calls them sidecar. They think that those who rule should have overwhelming power, thinking that the Adler dorm is unworthy, so the leader orders for them to take all the coins from the Adler students the next day. The Lang and Adler dorms have a joint class in the forest. Mash wonders what they will be doing for the class. And they know this Barrett, who makes a racket about how he is the main character. Mash thinks he is weird, but Barrett thinks he is a side character. Looking at his appearance, but Lemon arrives, asking Mash if she can tag along with him. Barrett gets annoyed and spits on Mash. He starts freaking out about how he is getting attention from, and he gets even more annoyed, wonders about her situation. And the girl explains she is being threatened by Silva, who is forcing her to use her unique magic. Barrett swears to help her, and Silva appears. Barrett decides to fight him to help the girl. He attacks with a barrage, protected himself with his iron. He attacks Barrett with his pillar, and knocks Mash's cream puff out of, while Mash is just stunned by the loss of his cream puff.